Hey guys, and welcome to this week's installment of the Conditioning Standard. Today we are joined by Rachel and Jacob. So we've got lots of expertise in the room, so to speak, and we've got a few great talking points coming off the ultimate Physique Conference we had down in Melbourne. And with that in mind, let's kick things off. So Jacob, you were in attendance. Give a bit of an overview of the weekend. Keen to hear your thoughts and takeaways.
It was a pretty jam-packed weekend, and it's always pretty fun to be around a lot of other like-minded people with, everyone having the same endeavor to be as jacked as possible. And yeah, there were a lot of takeaways. We had some great presentations, and then what was maybe a little bit more interesting was the round tables on the second day, where you had, I think, the first round table was on the contest prep and maybe how to navigate the dieting condition and different strategies, and just hearing the slightly different opinions of the different coaches was cool and insightful, as there was Beck, who primarily works with females. Brandon was on there, of course. We also had Mr. Goebel and
Yes.
even Richard Collins as well, who has a really awesome take from a psychological perspective. But I think he often gets his expertise with just general contest prep and bodybuilding is maybe a little bit underrated, because everyone looks at him as the psychological guru, so to speak. But yeah, there was a lot of good info there.
Yeah, it was very interesting to have people come together from sort of different angles / perspectives. Richard brings with him incredible knowledge given his background in team sports. One of the only contest preparation coaches that I know who has a background in physique sports, and the transferability of some of the communication tactics you use at that scale are phenomenal for a one-on-one. The roundtables were particularly interesting. One of the sort of dividing pieces I recall was on the topic of modulating the hedonic power of food. As both you guys know, we're very big on keeping food palatability low throughout contest preparation in a bid to manage hedonic hunger, not capitalize on it. Obviously, we're not dogmatic with our approach, but I know that Beck's approach was much more liberal with the inclusion of hyperpalatable foods, if as an adherence tool. And I mean, like anything, tools in the tool bag, use it for the right person. It's context specific. But it was a very interesting conversation there. And I mean, events like this are always incredible. It's not just getting these presenters together, but it's getting people in the room. And I think for attendees, these events are just so valuable, not just for what you take from the presenters, but getting in the room with quite literally the top 1% of coaches and athletes. And if there's one thing good coaches are, they are lifelong learners. So it was a fantastic weekend. And I mean, the next big event we have coming up is the Natural Bodybuilding Summit, guys. And we've been working
Let's go
in the background on that. Rachel, do you want to introduce the Natural Bodybuilding Summit? And for those listening, unfortunately, we've sold out, fortunately, we have sold out the event, but nonetheless, it's going to be a stellar event, and we're hoping to run it back in the future. But Rachel, give us a bit of an overview on that, as self-serving as it is.
Yes, as self-serving as it is. From 15th of July to the 22nd of July in beautiful Bali this year, we have an all-inclusive conference. So how many coaches we have? We've got like 5 awesome coaches, international coaches as well, speaking
Plus
on a
Winnie and Kev.
variety. Plus
yeah.
Winnie and Kev, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Plus some awesome research symposium components as well to bring to you the latest evidence, which is really exciting. And doing some cool things, eating some good food, getting some really good training in. And it's going to be a great time.
See, the way we look at
Fabulous.
it is, for the listeners' sort of background, is that if you have a good session, for example, with a high level coach, it can change your life. And I know I sound dramatic here, but it can recalibrate your perspective of intensity, your perspective of training accuracy. And that's something you will carry for the remainder of your career. And this event here is intended to be that blend of, we've got some of the best coaches in the world coming to this event in the natural space to present to you. So you're going to learn, but then you get to train with each of these coaches across a 7-day period. This is the dream that I had as a 19-year-old bodybuilder. Is like, can I train with my idols? How much could I learn? Well, we're going to give this to 23 people. And then not only that, you get to hang with your people as well, because we've got 3 meals a day with these guys, plus activities, all the sort of standard, get out there for that ATV riding, etc. And unfortunately with this event, we're limited for accommodation basically and transport. So, we've got 23 people there, which is really awesome. I highly doubt that we're going to break even on this, but that's not the intention. It's just really, hey, let's have a great time and give these guys an incredible experience overall, a whole lot of learning. So that's coming up this next month. And then after that, the next big thing is Denmark, which we could talk about in the future, but that's going to be a pretty cool piece. Yeah. So with that in mind, I did a very poor job actually at the onset with introducing Rachel, given it's her first appearance here. But Rachel, you can give a bit of background. Actually, that'd be fantastic. And then we'll lead into Rachel's prep, because Rachel is in prep right now. You can give us an overview of how it's going, how far you are out, and what shows you have planned. Take it away, Doc.
Yeah, sure. So for everyone who is not familiar with who I am, apart from being Brandon's wife,
Important one.
I am the... Hopefully. My name is Dr. Rachel Wardrop, aka Kempter, of course. And my background is in the clinical sciences, specifically in nursing. So my doctorate is a PhD in nursing, essentially. So specifically, my research area of expertise is vulnerable populations with a sub-focus on mental health. So I think part of my coaching focus really focuses, again, I said that word twice, but I really try to hone in on not just obviously, the physicality of what we do. As coaches, we tell people what to eat and, how to train, etc., but also the mindset around training and nutrition and things like that. So I hope I bring that unique perspective to my coaching. So I've been a coach now for a few years at least in BK conditioning. So it's been a wild ride thus far and very rewarding, I will say. So I do operate in an academic position and a research position as well with a university. So I get the diversity and spice of life in terms of, doing a few different things, which is fabulous. So yes, I am in prep at the moment. I am returning to stage after nearly a 10-year hiatus, which makes me feel exceptionally old at this point in time. No. Hopefully it doesn't show. But yes, I have just entered 14 weeks out, which is crazy. This is it's crazy. I know it seems like, I suppose, to a lot of people, like that's lots of time. But I think as an athlete in your head, you're like, all right, 4 weeks, and then we're into 5 weeks, we're into single digits. And then I just feel like I'm just hemorrhaging time at this point. So, which is really good, because I haven't been focused on how long I've been doing this for, how much longer I have. And I think that for me has been a really important component, to not think of it in that way, but to more so situate myself in the process and really love the process and the changes that I see. So shows for me, I haven't really spoken about this, I suppose, beyond the three of us.
Coming out of the bag here. Yeah, let's go.
It's coming out of the bag. Let's go.
We could either put it out there or just say, yeah, we're going to pick a few shows when we get there and just leave it as it is. Just rock up.
So I'm more than happy to talk about it. I think it's just with what was going on in the world, I didn't really know about this first one. Obviously, as people know, that we do live overseas. So there's a lot more, I suppose, that's available to us on this side in Southeast Asia. But in saying that, completely negating that as a first show, and heading to Dubai for WMBF on the 19th of September. that is the
Yeah.
intention for show 1.
Look, we don't
like you're gonna say
really
something, Brent.
like dodging missiles. So
No.
Rachel's sitting here like, hey, can I book this now? And I'm like, I'm no geopolitical expert, but things change very quickly. Can we hold out to like 3 weeks out? And then I'm like, okay, push the button, pay the flight and the entry, let's go. But that show, by the way, credit to Charles and the guys for what they're doing over there. They always run a fantastic show. If you have the opportunity, listeners, to go to the WMBF UAE show, I would encourage you to do so. The production is stellar. And because it is that kind of central nexus for that region, you get people, it's a short flight to come from Europe to there, short flight from Southeast Asia, etc. So you get a melting pot of competitors there. It's incredible. And the prize money they offer, I mean, it actually trumps WMBF Worlds. They seldom offer any prize money. Not that you do it for that, but I mean, hey, it's just like you're making a good show better and better and better. What is not? How can you say no to that? Outside of dodging missiles right now, but that's not in their control. I mean, I should mention this is USD, guys. So that's show number 1, Doc. And what do you got planned for show 2?
Yeah. Show 2, take a little trip over to Vietnam for the NPC Natural in Ho Chi Minh. That is the intention. Cool. So for the first few weeks, we'll go back to back, which is great. I think it's a good start. But my intention is to, there'll be a few things thrown in there as to, a few extra shows based on how we feel and how we're tracking, etc. I'm just mindful of not overloading it, but basically the aim is about 5 shows. But to get to Worlds as well on the 20th of November. So it's a bit of a long season. So we're just being mindful of what that looks like across
Can I throw something at you, Doc?
But I have the good coach. Sure.
We're biased, but yes. But is Vietnam is it a pro qualifier?
Amateur and pro qualifier, yeah.
Okay. Just to play devil's advocate here, we've never discussed this. But if you happen, if you happen to win a pro card,
this is a good one.
What are you going to do? I mean, hey, I found myself in this situation, but are you going to go, you know what? We're going for a holiday to Canada and we're going to watch WMBF Worlds. Or are you saying, you know what? That's great. Thank you for the opportunity. And you're going to put that thing on the wall, just call it a day.
Yeah, I'll still take the card, but I won't actually.
Whilst I deliberate, I shall take possession of this card.
Yeah.
Look, I think it's one of those things, and I know how much you struggled with articulating, that particular decision. And I think it does come down to how you feel as an athlete at the end of the day, irrespective of what the rules of the federation are and how you can't, you know what I mean? You can't continue on in this particular path, etc. I think it's got to come down to how you feel about it. So I haven't really thought about it in that manner, in that I'm just going to walk in, have the greatest time of my life, try really hard and, do the do. If it were hypothetically to happen, I'd probably continue on in my head. That's how I think, because I like to finish what I start and do what I say I do, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Just for the sake of
you also spend a bit of time away from stage as well, Rachel, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, we talk to athletes about this all the time in that, you ideally don't really just want to do one show. You want to make it worth it, but everyone's got a different interpretation of what making it worth it is, I suppose. We want to sort of have that happy point where, we feel like we've achieved what we wanted to achieve, but we haven't gone overboard. We haven't strung ourselves out. So it's different for everyone. Unfortunately, no hard and fast rule there. So we'll go by feel.
And for the sake of context for listeners, in case you didn't, you weren't in the know, the IFBB is one of the very few federations of which essentially have a degree of, I suppose you say ownership over their pro athletes, in that once you have that pro card, you can't compete anywhere else. And that's a tough piece to work with, particularly as a natural when there's no real opportunity yet in the pro lineup. So I think it'd be pretty hard for them to get off the ground because, as far as I'm concerned, it's a rather egomaniacal perspective to employ, especially given the infancy. You can't bring that, excuse my language, big dick energy in when you don't have an avenue for the athlete to compete. So I think like for me, for example, I don't know if I would, next time I compete, if there's opportunity, sure. If not, I don't really mind. WNBF has my heart as, I think, the best organization for natural bodybuilders anyway. But I wanted to ask that question, Resh, because you know how much I've antagonized over that. But right now, we have flown to the Middle East, done this show, went to Vietnam. Where do you want to go now, Doc?
Well, technically, I left one out there. Essentially, if I remember correctly, and prep brain's probably starting to set in, but I did leave out Taiwan. Taiwan is the other WNBF show that falls, I think it's after Dubai. And then, so it would be, yes, Dubai, Taiwan, then Vietnam, and then essentially we come back to Bali, and there is an NBA show in Bali I have been thinking about, and then that would sort of leave me about a month out from Worlds and potentially a diet break, maybe. I don't know. Depends what my coaches say, I suppose.
It's a big season.
Diet break.
It is a very big season. And like Worlds is positioned so late in the year. I mean, for anyone coming in on the Oz circuit who needs to qualify there, you're looking at September 13, September 19, then you're going to hold out into, 23rd, 26th of November. It's a very tough position for a lot of athletes because you can't come into, let's say, for example, an Oz WNBF show or Taiwan WNBF show half cocked. Like, you got to come in bringing it, or you just can't mess with it. And then you want to try and hold that. And we generally try and get everything tidied up in a 6-week period. We can easily maintain that. Beyond that, things get exponentially more challenging, particularly in bodybuilding, men's physique, etc., where the conditioning is right up there. But to be fair, even in Rachel's scenario with bikini, these days, IFBB bikini is not really mucking around for conditioning, and WNBF bikini is really right there. It's a different look. It's a different style of posing, one of which we're hoping to balance between quite nicely, but not easy. So credit to anyone of whom has the same plans or similar plans.
How do you feel, Rachel, about holding out for that long?
Look, I like to think that as much as it is a physical game, absolutely, it's a very mindset-based approach, and I think you've got to have a lot of patience and a lot of resilience. And I sort of look at that and I'm like, there's a lot of things that I've done in my life that I'm like, even doing the research side of things, doing a PhD, I'm like, yeah, I like it. There's moments where it sucks, but it's cool because I know what's at the end of it, right? I know the reward. I know, and it's not about like the placings on stage. Sure, that's really, really important, but just like holding myself accountable to saying I will do something and doing it is part of the fun. So I think I look at it from that perspective, as in like, watch me do it kind of thing. And I think that if you've had that, because I've had people before, I think everyone has, right? You've had animosity from people in terms of like, you can't do that. I remember doing a PhD and working full-time as an academic with over 1,000 students across 3 campuses. And I had an academic say to me, you won't do that. You won't do a PhD in 3 years. Watch me. So I think it's like, it stems from our, how we create that mindset, how we cultivate that mindset and move forward. And for me, it's just like, I'm feeling pretty good about it right now. I know I've got a really good team. I know I'm in a good position. I'm not behind. I know how I hold myself and how I conduct myself. And I think being a coach as well and expecting that from my athletes, like, I've got no excuses, right? I think that's part of it as well, is that I'm role modeling that to my own athletes. So I better stand up to that particular standard myself. So, yeah.
I think the more advanced you get, the more automaticity there is in the process. So like I watch Rachel, it's the same thing every day, rocking and rolling. She's maximizing her productivity in kind of 2 to 3 separate avenues. So she's in a nice pocket of routine. And that's part of, working your way to mastery within this game, is that the process that facilitates the result brings a degree of joy, and it's easy to implement. You know, I got to say, I found it really interesting, even at the weekend, hearing people say like, "Oh, bodybuilding is the hardest thing you'll ever do," and I remember looking at you with almost like raising my eyebrows, like, what do you fuck you mean? Like, you know, for us, we're like, I mean, like bodybuilding is like, yeah, it's got its hard spots, but I'm not going to sit here and like complain to the world. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do. And I'm like, oh man, I've seen people live in poverty. That is hard. That's hard. For us, I'm like, no, this is like a vocation. Like we love this, man. Like going to the gym and training hard is fantastic. I mean, even the end of my last prep, you know, talking to colleagues like, hey, you're really excited. You're a week out. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to lie, man. I'm just really loving like everything being in sync. The show was just the cherry on top. And I see a similar thing with Rachel. Just the process is just, she's just rolling through it. So I think if anyone can bring together a lengthy season like that, you know, it'll be someone like Doc.
I appreciate that. Look, I think you choose your hard, right? Like, people said, "Oh, how is it so far?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it is what it is. Rolling through it." And I think, like, yeah, there's a lot of components that I don't want to say the word easy because I don't want to like simplify it, right? Boil it down to something that's just like, it's so easy, because it's not. Don't get me wrong. There are periods absolutely where it's like, I have to think this far ahead in advance for a bout of travel, and like today's a hungry day, like, and you start to understand when your body's going to have this next drop because you start to feel it. And I appreciate that because it's such a unique opportunity that most people, majority of people won't do for whatever reasons, right? And I think part of, like, as you said, I sit in my pocket of routine and I love it because like I have all these other things that are occurring, so I don't have the time to think about food, right? To sit there and dwell on it and to think about how much it sucks to miss out because life passes us by. I studied for 10 years. I went from a bachelor's to a master's to an honours to a grad cert to a PhD. Like, there was a 10-year, like, you were with me for that. I studied for a chunk of time. And I think I did get a lot of comments of that so much. Like, I still get from my students, like, you look so young to have all those degrees. I'm like, thanks, mate. It's the Botox. But, like, it's... You know, I think people look at it like, oh, you're wasting your time. Like, you're just letting life pass. Life passes you by other way, right?
Yeah.
If you want something bad enough, you got to sacrifice for it, and life's going to pass you by other way. So you either decide to do it or you don't and you miss it.
Yeah. But also, I think that just a perspective piece for you, I think that for anyone of whom defines himself as a high achiever, they're going to find, for anyone who's a high achiever, happiness is really ephemeral, right? What you're really chasing is enjoyment. And I think that high achievers find incredible enjoyment, in working at the edge of their current capabilities and working hard in pursuit of something awesome, whether it be PhD, master degree, undergrad / a bodybuilding show. Like that's really enjoyable, right? And I think that's where Rachel's coming off a PhD. I think Rachel sat there after she'd done, 10 years of focus, right? And sat there and went, I've got a little bit of time. Like, hey, now what? What's the next challenge? And then, okay, let's get into this contest preparation. So, yeah, it fits her personality nicely. So, beyond that, we've also had a pretty interesting couple of weeks in bodybuilding throughout Australasia and also throughout the UK. Obviously, Jacob, you were there on the judging panel at the WMBF Nationals in Melbourne. Give us a bit of an overview of the show. I was watching from afar. It looked fantastic.
Yeah, it was probably one of the best production shows I've been at. The clock tower in Melbourne is beautiful, and then also the versatility of lighting that they had available was awesome as well. And whilst it wasn't a massive lineup in total competitors, the standard and depth of quality was extremely high. So, the WMBF has that minimum cap for the amount of competitors that they need to give out a pro card. And whilst they were sort of just above that cap, and that might come across as, might be worth giving a pro card, the quality was definitely worthwhile. And I know that as well, head judges also have the ability to hold back giving a
Yeah.
pro card if it's really not worthwhile or they're not sort of pro worthy, so to speak. And that can be quite difficult, but these guys were definitely pro worthy. We had Matt, who works with BK, one of the BK conditioning guys, and then Ho Chin, who was a phenomenal men's physique competitor. And I will also shout out the classic physique double champ with Matt, and then the bikini girls as well. They also looked fantastic.
May I just throw this out? This gentleman on screen at the moment looks fantastic. And I believe he's from Malaysia. And obviously I'm a big fan of Malaysia and its bodybuilding scene. It's really
Singapore.
quite cool.
Come on, B. He
He's
might be
Singapore?
Malaysian, though.
Oh, my
Yeah,
bad.
he lives in Singapore, I think.
Okay, many years ago was the same country. My bad. I apologize, guys. Yeah. But it is like the scene in Singapore and Malaysia is pretty awesome in general. And I was stoked to see him coming over. And look, I'm very biased or bullish, I should say, on Asia in general. But man, some of the talent down here is like the roundness to the physique is beautiful, mate. So it's pretty cool to see some guys coming down to Oz. And I'd love to see more Australians get involved in Singapore, in Malaysia, Taiwan. I mean, guys, it's not that far. Like you're looking at 7, 8, maximum 9 hours. That's a trip from, Brisbane to Mackay on flight, and you have access to an international stage. The cool thing about those, once you get to Singapore, you're getting guys from all around the region. Guys from the Middle East will happily come over there. You're going to get some very good competitors. So spread yourself out, get amongst it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bubbly.
When he came out, I was a little bit expressive. It was like, oh, let's go. There's, we've got this world-class physique on stage. So balanced front to back. I was sitting next to Nathan Wallace, and I said to him, I'm going to try and find something that could be better on the physique other than just more mass everywhere. And I was like, oh, maybe like a little bit more lower trap and it just complete the back just that touch more. But honestly, it was picking a needle in a haystack to try and find something. It was very impressive.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. And I mean, outside of WMBF Oz, there was also, there was actually a WMBF Taiwan as well at the weekend that just passed.
Yeah, that looked impressive.
Looked impressive too. Everyone seems to be running didn't look like Dream Tan. It looked like a tan called Sexy U-Tan, which is really well represented in Korea. Has a very idiosyncratic look. It's got a shine to it. It's actually quite a nice product to use, albeit at least as messy as Dream Tan. But the standard looked very good over there. The typical, what I expect to see in Asia, round muscle bellies, nice full pecs. And the way it usually goes on the Asian stage is really, if you turn to the rear, if you got a good back, then you're in business, because that seems to be the sort of Achilles heel from a hereditary perspective, unfortunately. The conditioning side of things was pretty decent. I think most of these guys, from what I saw, definitely had more run in the tank. But the overall standard looked very good. So it's bikini wellness, obviously. No, sorry, bikini it is still, but almost like a IFBB wellness look there. Obviously not too many photos here.
No, I did see some others. I think Mr. Sim had some up, but
yeah, I would expect.
It looked like a very competitive show. Just good.
Yeah. And outside of that, let's
and
go
the
across.
UK FDA.
Yeah.
I think it's worthwhile highlighting, because I know you didn't see this gentleman right here. We had this guy. This was the heavyweights. So Finn Kelly as well, UK coach, and then Adamola. This gent right here took the overall, who was very, very impressive. Very impressive.
Jiggity jacked. Yeah. It's hard to compete with that kind of density. Love it. Love it. We also had, over in the States, Oscar on stage, the Professor, another very, very incredible physique. And I mean, this is like honestly, Oscar, the size he has and the overall symmetry, he can walk on stage like even half cooked. Which I think right now he's got a lot in the tank compared to how he would step on stage and say Worlds and still rip it, which is phenomenal, right? And I mean, by the way, I should mention here, if you ever meet this gentleman, lovely guy, just a great representation of natural bodybuilding, like a great person, and has arms the size of. It's impressive to see with your own eyes hitting a side chest there because it is the size of my face. No word of a lie. And I'm very excited to see what he does coming into Worlds because I expect he's going to push all the way through the year, which is why he's leaving so much in the tank conditioning-wise now. Which, I mean, yeah, credit to him. Must be, I mean, it'd be pretty hard mentally to get on stage at less than your best, but he's still doing great work. And I believe that he'll be on stage with Babacar, one and only, and I believe Dirk will also be on stage at Worlds. What are your thoughts on that, Jacob?
It's pretty exciting. I mean, I heard Bob, the president of WMBF, say what he said to Oscar in 24, and it was, you need to come in, like, don't come back unless you are a pound or two lighter, being, more conditioned.
Yeah.
And in his sort of words, it was very close the last time they were up against each other, and a slightly sharper package could definitely make it a very difficult decision because Oscar has a lot of muscle and he is very thick. And then even with Dirk, he's made massive improvements. You know what would be cool?
What's that?
If Oscar chooses to pop into the UAE as well. So it's a double matchup, a little preview of Worlds.
That'd be pretty cool. I know Dirk is planning on doing Worlds, so we'll see him for then at the National Bodybuilding Summit as well, but we'll no doubt see him over there. It'll be a pretty coll lineup. I mean, look, Oscar's got some really freaky aspects in his physique, like his arms are just like whether we whether we like it or not, there is a hereditary component that predetermines muscle architecture, and he's just got those biceps that just kind of like wrap in on themselves. It is just a mind-blowing piece to see. And in his own right, Babacar is a freak of nature. They're just completely different physiques, like completely different to look at. And then you got Dirk, which is, of whom is also incredibly dense. So it's gonna be a pretty cool mashup if we happen to see them in the overall. But then again, we might just have some freak come out of, I don't know, who knows, Eastern Europe,
a farmer of 50 years.
Yeah, that's entirely possible.
Yeah, but I think what maybe a lot of people don't understand is when you get these guys come together on stage at the same time, it's a pretty special thing because most people can't prep year on year on year as a natural competitor compared to, the enhanced Olympian athletes. So really appreciating, and if you understand what it takes to prep year on year, like Babacar has, I think for the last 4 years, Oscar, at least the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I know Dirk had a year and a bit off, but like to appreciate that, I think is a massive component of, how cool this will be as well.
Yeah. Yeah. This I'm trying to recall. I mean, we've had Babacar and Oscar on stage together, but adding in Dirk, I mean, hey, it's going to be a pretty cool mashup. Furthermore, obviously, the back end of the year, Nathan Wallace will hopefully be jumping back on stage as well. I'm putting the pressure on by mentioning this on the podcast. And he usually is representing the middleweights for the pro lineup. So Aussie, oi. Brings an incredible package to the stage. And last season, he was standing right next to the best of them. It was a very, very cool mashup. So very cool. Some great things happening in the bodybuilding scene moving forward. Outside of that, I thought we'd take a moment today as a bit of a wrap-up piece. One of the big takeaways from the weekend was the importance of posing, and not just from the weekend, to be fair, from this season as a whole. For example, Maddie coming to the WMBF recently and made some very significant adjustments. Well, I should say minor adjustments that collectively made a significant difference to the physique. And I would argue that was one of the reasons of which he was able to pit some of the fellow competitors of which had beaten him in the past. And one of the things that I see, and I know Jacob and Rachel agree with me on this, in this echo chamber we have here, that posing is approached very differently from a female to a male sort of perspective or within the categories. If we I look at, say, IFBB bikini, and if you do not compete in IFBB bikini, I don't think you can understand how to the wire this category is for posing. Everything is accounted for from fingertip positioning. It is incredible. And these girls, they practice with their posing coaches in the off season. They move into the contest preparation. They do not F around. For whatever reason, for men, I see them fucking around. Please excuse my French, but it drives me insane, because to prep for a show and not have your posing in check is akin to running a marathon and tripping in the final 10 meters. It not just allows you to show your best, but it demonstrates professionalism as an athlete. And I really wonder why this is. I see if bodybuilders, let's say you're watching Jacob move in posing, it's like poetry in motion. And good posing complemented with a phenomenal physique, you can't not look at it. But what do you guys think is let's start with like Rachel, what do you think is like one of the separating components there? Because we just had this big dichotomy here where women put the effort in and unfortunately a lot of men don't. And it costs placings. From a female's perspective here.
And you can dig in, Rachel. Don't hold back.
Yeah, rip into those men. You ego maniacal blokes.
I think it's important to note that we see a massive dichotomy, not just across males versus females, but globally, right? I think the interpretation of posing in, say, for example, Australian federations is different to what we see in Southeast Asia, and we see that on stage. We watch even the women, like I'll be watching some of the women, I'm like, you clearly haven't practiced, like it's really obvious. And I think it comes down to those, exactly as you said, those finer details, I think, and I'm not sure why this is, again, like I'm not male, I don't really have the perspective, and maybe it's how bodybuilding, I suppose, has morphed into this. It's not just getting shredded and getting on stage, right? It's an artistry. That there is ebb and flow to presenting your best self. And we know that, you can highlight specific aspects of your physique if you are posing for your physique. And I think perhaps that's where this kind of has evolved from, is that there's not necessarily one size fits all approach. But I suppose, like, from a female perspective, I'm very aware with this with my own posing coach, is that it's a very dynamic nature, and it's almost like a living, breathing beast, in that I have to have, like, I only have fortnightly lessons, and I might have to ramp it up to weekly as we get closer to, because the physique changes so much, right? That a pose that you were doing 6 weeks ago perhaps is not appropriate now, because it's actually not showcasing your best side. And I suppose maybe the difference there with males is that, again, like, I know there's a different architecture involved, but maybe I think there's also a psychological component here as well, right? In that you turn up and you show the biggest version of yourself, and that's what you do, and you get it done.
Most people are not.
I think
that's the problem. You don't. Okay, I think maybe another consideration here is that for bikini, there's an evolution since it was introduced, right? But it's always been about the way you move, right? And it's always been pretty to the wire. If we look at bodybuilding, we started classically. There was artistry in movement. As everyone's watched Pumping Iron. Arnold's there with the ballerina instructor, learning how to move, have poise, etc. And then when we got into the mass monster era, what I see is that we saw. I mean, bless these guys. We're seeing bubble guts, etc. And it just seemed like people just quarter turn. They just kind of went, it's fucking moved. And then we saw men's physique come in, in the just after 2010s. that definitely brought more flow. There's more focus on transitions. And I saw that feed over to bodybuilding, as well. We started to transition with a little bit more thought. Then classic came in. Classic, definitely, there's the posing element is more appreciated than bodybuilding. But I think that in the mix there just seems in aggregate to be less focus on posing in, say, particularly bodybuilding than these other divisions.
Yeah.
And again, you can't bodybuild without posing. Like posing is bodybuilding. And I think see a lot of people letting themselves down. Go on, Jacob.
There's multiple points here. I think Rachel tapped on to something important. With there's like a bit of a psychological thing with maybe the way some people view bodybuilding is it's about hard work, training hard in the gym, getting in shape, whether some people do or not. But you need to then apply that to the posing as well. Like that's what's included. You might have these big figureheads talk about the hard work. Most of them, they're including that posing element in that all-inclusive statement. And I love the way you sort of went through the timeline and transition of different phases in bodybuilding and how things changed. And, the integration of classic physique, I think, made a big impact too. But one important thing, and I'm going to call Pete out for this, who I got the pleasure of judging at the WMBF 2 weekends ago. He's a great poser. He knows how to pose really well. He knows what poses look good. But one important thing that I think some people miss out on is, what does the criteria say? For classic physique specifically, you need a big X frame. So if you start posing small, you're losing that pose.
Yeah.
And I think this is also a lesson you can learn from bikini. There's a massive component to that judging score that represents presentation. And these girls, every single movement is with the thought and the processing that I need to be in the best position possible to highlight my strengths and minimize my weaknesses. If bodybuilding and classic physique was judged like that, a lot of people will be losing points. And just in the mere transition, if you let your gut out, if you're not keeping your abs on, maybe you don't cover your midsection with your arms when you're breathing, which maybe it's better to do that. And trying to look at the whole package rather than each pose by itself is a big thing. And that's one thing we can definitely take away from some of the female divisions. But I don't know what it is, but there's definitely something about males being told what to do, or they can improve on something that's more artistic. I don't really know, but for me, I was always taught posing in the off season. I'd pose, every a full session every 4 weeks, and there's a whole other horde of components we can talk about within posing. But I think the main thing is that it is so important. And as BK said, Matt went from losing to certain competitors that he beat to win his pro card at the end of the season because he upskilled in his posing. And when you're judging that, you're no longer marking people down because they can't flex certain muscles and keep them on, or their posing conditioning isn't adequate and things like that.
And just
I think...
Go on, Rush. Yeah.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I think sometimes it's about the perception as well. Like, we as females look at it as a routine. I know a lot of men view it the same way, but like when we're taught this, it's components that will make up your routine, and it's an individualized routine, and it's you presenting your best self. So when we're talking about posing, like, I'm always on to my clients that it's not, no. You haven't just started contest prep and started posing. You should be starting posing months out. Like you should be moving through these mandatories. You should be getting into the flow of things, because then what you end up with is people who have never been exposed to it, and then suddenly have to start having to figure out how to move their hands and now, control their abs, and what does that look like. And then we've got some amazing posing coaches. Like, international, there are some absolutely stunning posing coaches. I have a fabulous one myself, aka Camellia. Woo! But like, again, getting different perspectives from different posing coaches is great as well. But they should also be not just focusing on what I think anyway, how you move, etc., and all these extra bits and pieces, but just basic things like ab control, right? Like, I know a lot of girls who are never taught that. Like, and they're not taught how to control and to brace. And for us, I think as bodybuilders, we're like, oh yeah, that's what we do when we squat, right? It's like what we do when we do these big movements, like we breathe through the diaphragm, etc. But people they're not taught that. And therefore, like, it's not a complete picture. So I think that part of the perception should be viewing it as a whole routine. It's not just moving through the motions. It's how you present your entire self, which is how you breathe, which is how you look. It's how you style your hair. It's absolutely everything. We had an athlete, Jason, who used to change the color of his hair for every show, and it was like this cool anime thing that was going on, and that was his unique perspective that he brought to his routine. I just thought it was really cool.
Just the final wrap-up piece here, just to illustrate the importance of posing. Beyond match change and placing, say, between shows, we had an athlete who changed placings within the same show. This was in, I think, the Netherlands. It would have been a couple of years back now. So I was watching the live feed of Mario on stage, and it was just one of those moments where I just went to set up the rear shot and just couldn't get, just for whatever reason, didn't compute on that, in that category. It didn't open up his back. And I'm like, like this at 2:00 in the morning on the screen, the other side of the screen. We got off, he got a second place, right? I was like, hey brother, man, I know you can open up your back. I need you to really get this in check. Spoke on a few cues. Great. Came out for the next category, which is actually the open. It was the one that counted. Had similar competitors, but the guy he got a second to, he got a first to, and then he went on to win the overall. And it's like, hey, this goes to show, like, if you're, in this scenario, it's pretty extreme. It's not opening up the back. It's probably 5, 6, 7 meters of lat either side that I'm just not seeing in the symmetry round. And if I've got a, 1 point that splits the first and second place, I got to judge what I'm seeing. So I understand the judge's call there. But just again to illustrate, it's a very extreme perspective there. But it makes you have to be focusing on this, and it needs to be like walking. Front door bicep, it's automatic. I didn't think about it. Bang, bang, bang. You can see a lot of the young competitors are called front door bicep. You see the cogs turning. Okay, yep, cool. Most muscular, hands on hips. Oh, looks down the line. What's that? I've only done
that one.
The class hands. Okay, side chest, other side, says WMDF. Oh, I've never done that. I'm like, guys, you should be. And if you've got a good posing coach, they're going to give you the appropriate drills for this. Awesome. It's been fantastic, guys. Any closing notes for today?
Ooh.
Something you want to leave the listeners with for the week, maybe? I'm throwing you on the spot here.
I want to pull back and just do a really quick little drawback to the hedonic power of food.
Sure.
Now, I haven't personally tried this, but I know Dean from Flex Success did a whole prep tracking and doing different foods every single day. Now, this is obviously the extreme end of things, but he said it was ridiculous. The food focus was out the wazoo, and that, should be made. You need to be aware of things like that. But maybe Beck's opinion on including some of these more enjoyable comfort foods throughout prep. They could be, used, but you've got to know the athlete and you've got to know yourself. For me, keeping things simple is both sustainable and it gets the job done. So I think you definitely got to look at things with the whole picture in front of you.
Yeah, certainly. Work with the individual before you. Rachel, any closing notes?
Posing. Put your best foot
Get it done.
forward. Get it done. Get it early. Find someone who gels with you as well. I think the relationship there is really important, not just somebody who has stood on stage and looks kind of cool. I think that relationship needs to be one that is fortified with trust and the fact that, you know, you get along. I think that's one of the things I've learned, is that you got to have pretty similar values in terms of how you hold yourself. So find someone who gels, who works with you, and run it early.
As self-serving as this sounds, I will say that Jake is our resident posing coach for bodybuilding and classic. So should you require a great posing coach, he is your man. I'm going to keep it short and sweet.
I need to get myself a set of heels though. And then
we're working on that. Some size 12 heels.
Working on the figure, yeah.
So I'm going to keep it really simple, but I'm going to say live it, love it, and share it with others. You know, if you love this bodybuilding game, if you enjoy this podcast even, share it with others. Because, hey, you know, what a blessing to bodybuild. Thank you for listening, guys.
Peace.